And we're live. What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Side report back for another video. Joining me is Nakasuchi.
Hey, what's up?
And also joining me is Jeff.
Hello.
I had said that my housemate, well, she was going to be listening in, and like she'll definitely kind of join in on at least one of the topics anyway. So like, yeah, she'll be along in a bit. But yeah, so I kind of feel like, I don't know, like the last video that I kind of put out, like it was like a kind of like a brief channel update and stuff like that. I kind of feel like that was very kind of how do I say it, like maybe it's kind of came across like as though it wasn't maybe like as bad as it kind of seemed, or like it was making, because it was quite short, obviously, like the last time that I like the last upload that I made, versus kind of how quickly I'm now streaming again. But like it's just, yeah, like that whole kind of situation just like resolved itself way the fuck quicker than I was anticipating it to. So just in kind of case it was like a couple of weeks type of a thing, you know.
I was going to ask you about that because it turned around quickly. So.
Yeah, very, very, very quickly, and way quicker than we kind of thought. But look, that's only a good thing, you know, because it's just, there's just no more kind of shit and or drama to kind of deal with. So anyway, that's not for the personal stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of super psyched for this, because it's, again, as I always say to you guys, if I have watched the video or not, and I never do ever, unless I kind of specifically kind of say yes that I have seen this, like, and that's why I'm reacting to it. But yeah, as per usual, I have not seen this, so I have no idea what the fuck. I know the drama around it. I should stop playing the pronoun game. Jordan Peterson was banned from Twitter recently. And I know the reason that he was banned and whatever else, but yeah, so like I had heard then, and I've seen clips of like him doing, or like, you know, him talking about it and stuff like that, and so yeah, so I just kind of, sorry, I'm very kind of distracted by what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, I've seen clips of it on YouTube, and not on fucking YouTube, on Twitter. And I've only kind of seen like one or two, and it was just kind of like, okay, this is enough for me to know that I'm gonna react to this. So yeah, so look, we'll stop. I'll stop teasing you, and we'll just fucking. That's us in our reactions. There we go. Yeah, and we'll just go for it.
Hello, everyone. A few days ago, I penned an irritated tweet in response to one of the latest happenings on the increasingly heated culture war front. In response to the decision...
Wait, but it's only a culture war because he's making it a culture war. He started the culture war.
Yeah,
he made it a thing. Like what?
That's what I was gonna say. He literally started the culture wars, especially like, you know, it's went from like feminists to now it's now it seems to be trans people.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, that was always kind of Jordan Peterson's shtick, though, like, right? That's what kind of rose him into, well, like, let's kind of more so say infamy.
It was
because of the Bill C-16 thing. Yeah, so, like... Yeah.
And the most important thing is that nothing that he predicted, right? He predicted that was going to lead to arrests and this like chilling effect on free speech. Nothing like that happened. Nothing close. And I don't think he's ever actually accepted that as reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. The Canada bill, the anti-gay bill that they were having, and he predicted all of these things, and like, nothing happened. That's like how I first found out about. That's a long time ago now.
Man, that's a really fucking long time ago. Like, I used to have these arguments with Kevin, my co-host, who's never fucking here. I'd be kind of saying like, no, like Jordan Peterson is like totally fucking wrong. Like, but because Kevin was kind of more so a fan of him back then, he was kind of like defending him, I guess, in a way. And he was kind of trying to like make like excuses, like, and this, that, and the other thing, like, or whatever. He is totally appalled by him having liked him in the past now. I just want to kind of point that out. I was only talking to him a few days ago. But yeah, it's like it's kind of like it's a vicious circle, but it's also somewhat of a beautiful circle, because the one thing that kind of rose him to infamy is now the one that's kind of somewhat taking him down, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I said anti-gay bill, but I can't remember I don't think it was an anti-gay bill. It was just something to do with gay folk.
Was it something?
Man, that was a long time ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Actor named Ellen Elliott Page. I am employing this awkward and impossible naming style because it is now apparently mandatory, and am probably doing it wrong.
Okay, well, first you are doing it wrong.
Not only that, but how is it mandatory to refer to people by all of the names they've ever had? What the hell is he talking about? Like, it's one thing to be against what's going on. It's another thing to present this beleaguered front, like, oh, we have to do this now. Like, first of all, no, what you're doing is just, a jackass pantomime. You're clearly exaggerating this because you think that this is like some kind of kick-ass take. And no, you don't have to do this. I mean, Elliot Page, it's a name, right? It's his name. Call him Elliot. That's not hard, are you capable of understanding that your mom probably took your dad's last name, and at one point she was known by a different last name? She was Miss something. Now she's Mrs. your dad's last name. Like, was that too hard for Jordan Peterson to figure out? I don't get this. Yeah, I mean, like most of the people he's ever seen in a movie, they don't use the name they were born with. They use their stage name. Like, like some of the, it just doesn't make. They make this an issue because it gives them the ability to be bigoted against the people they wanted to be bigoted against. That's pretty much it. It's like when Christians say hate the sinner but not, or hate the sin but not the sinner. I mean, you're just pretty much just regurgitating a bunch of bullshit so you have a chance to be bigoted.
Yeah, I mean, like it. Yeah, like it definitely. I can't remember the last time that I like kind of needed to say this, but I mean, like it's literally, it's just a fucking name. It's just a name. That's all it is, But I mean, if you go into like a supermarket or something and you see on their name badge, hello, like my name is Peter, right? If you go up to him and it's just like, no, you kind of look more like a Paul to me, so I'm just going to call you Paul. You don't get to decide that. It's just like, that's what their name is. Just call them by their fucking name. You do it all the time with everybody else. This shouldn't be any more difficult.
Yeah, I agree. It should be.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll. Oh.
Nonetheless, as you're doing it wrong is the whole point of what is being made mandatory. But also, I'm trying to make a point. I've essentially been banned from Twitter as a consequence. I say banned, although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that. And hopefully it will not come to that.
Wait, what?
I've seen this.
What?
I have seen that little clip probably a half a dozen times, and I laugh out loud every time I hear it. It's insane. That is such a stupidly exaggerated thing to say.
You would rather die than apologize for something you did on a fucking app? Dude, Jesus Christ.
And he's totally lying, right? Like he won't delete it until like it's forgotten about, and then he'll delete it, or you know, like it's not about Twitter at this point. He's probably made some kind of decision, like, hey, I've went as far with Twitter as I'm gonna go. Everybody fucking knows who I am. Like you either hate him or you like him, right? Like pretty much, you know, he's known at this point. So he's made this calculated decision that he'll probably get a lot more followers on his other social medias if he takes this stand in this very particular way.
Yeah, like, oh God, sorry.
I mean, he literally called it a ban when he hasn't been banned.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to explain it. Like, I'm lying to you. This is what really happened. You know.
Yeah, like, but it's just like serious. You know, like, okay. Sorry, I'm still. I swear to Christ, I'm still literally trying to process the fact that he said he'd rather die than apologize for something. It's
childish. It's
yes,
childish.
yes. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I have no other way of kind of. Yeah, there's no other way of saying it other than just that. Like it's literally just fucking childish. Like, that reaction, that reaction of like, yeah, he'd rather fucking die. It's just no. I am very, 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 very rarely at a loss for words, but I swear to Christ, this is quite difficult for.
He's
I don't
fighting
even know
those
how to...
culture wars. You know, like he's fighting the culture wars, and he's lost a bit of significance since his whole, you know, binge and going to rehab thing. So you know, I think this is his play for relevance. I think and he's going to scream about this as loud as he can.
But that's the thing, though, right? It's that conservatives constantly they will pile onto Twitter and intentionally break TOS. Just so that they can make a martyr out of themselves, like that. You know what I mean. So like they can be like, oh, you know, the woke leftists who control Twitter are banning me because I said something. But it's like, yeah, but what you said, is deeply against Twitter's TOS, something that you agreed to when you signed up for the app. You know, and
they consider it a badge of honor. You know, especially since Trump got banned. You know, like since Trump got banned, it's like, you know, I'm a martyr too, or some shit. I don't know.
We're only a minute into this video.
Yeah, I admit that I've seen it. I told Steven before I got here I had to watch it again before the stream just so I can get pissed off again. So I'll put that out there.
But I've just like we're 1 minute into this nearly 15-minute long video. I mean, oh God, sorry, I'm enjoying this very much.
The hell knows in these increasingly strange days. What was it that I said that caused such a fuss? And that fuss is just beginning. And even more importantly and complexly, what exactly was it that I said that resulted in the ban?
He did name someone, which is against part of Twitter's TOS. Like,
it dead named Elliot, misgendered Elliot.
Yeah, all
very, very intentionally.
Yeah, very intentionally. Extremely intentionally. Like, I don't know though. Like, this is one of the only videos that I've seen of Jordan who's like somewhat communicating bad news and hasn't cried yet. So.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure.
Dude,
like,
there's like so many videos of him online talking about just meaningless stuff, and he just gets super fucking emotional about it. I'm like,
I know,
dude, calm down. Like,
yeah, I've seen him break down in tears over like religion is vital to Western civilization, or they're, Western civilization wouldn't survive without religion. And this was back when he claimed not to believe in Jesus. I think he's actually believing in Jesus now. I don't know. He grifts and shit. So, I don't even know what Elliot did to piss him off.
Like nothing.
Like, is it just because Umbrella Academy is like #1 on Netflix, so he's pissed off?
Well, and it was weird too, because Elliot Page put a tweet out saying something like it was great to work with somebody or do something, right? One of those kinds of things, showing gratitude kind of tweet. And the first part of his tweet is this snide, passive aggressive. Remember when pride was a sin? Like,
yeah.
Wait, being proud of the work that you and other people, like this guy's Mr. Traditional Values. What the fuck is wrong with being proud of work you did? I thought that was the point of work, right?
Yeah.
Hard work builds character, and being able to point to something that you accomplished and be like, see that? We worked together and we did that. Being proud of that is a good thing. I think objectively for him. And for some fucking reason, he just decided to remember when pride was a sin, and then goes into his dead naming and misgendering bullshit. Like, well, and he says something about how Elliot Page, his surgeon is a criminal. It's just a fucking obscene, just an absurd thing to tweet out. But all the sentences were like all of it.
Yeah, and I think Jordan's gonna go through the actual tweet. Yeah, I forgot about. And to me, it's like, all right, so this is triggering you, right? And it's triggering you to be a bigot on a public service that has every right to make you adhere to the terms of service. Like, just don't follow Elliot Page. Like, I don't understand why these people feel the need to I mean, it's kind of like me tracking down Smokey, so I guess I can understand it, I guess. So I don't know, that blew up my train of thought.
Okay, I'm trying to find this one very, very particular photo of Jordan Peterson, and he's sitting in a chair. He has his legs crossed. He's like this, and he's just freaking out, and I cannot find it. It's really annoying because it just sums up him in like 90% of his fucking videos, and it's really annoying me.
See, I'm most familiar with him just going after feminists and placating to the incel crowd, masculine rights or bullshit. This I had forgotten just how bigoted he really was until I saw this video again. Until I saw this video for the first time a few days ago. It's like, oh yeah, that's why I started hating him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll try and find that or hopefully before the video is ended. But yeah, we'll carry on.
Here's the tweet in question. Remember when pride was a sin? And Ellen Page just had her breasts removed by a criminal physician. Then a link to a story that detailed out the happenings. The response from Twitter, quote, violating our rules against hateful conduct. You may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. By clicking delete, you acknowledge that your tweet violated the Twitter rules. Delete. If you think we've made a mistake, submit an appeal to us. Please note that should you do so, your account will remain locked while we review your appeal. Let's take this apart. First, it is clearly the case that I did not promote violence against or threaten anyone with my missive. So that leaves the arguably lesser sin of harass. Let's assume, since I wasn't informed, that that was the crime. And further, harassment on the basis of so-called gender identity, since Twitter did not do me the favor of actually specifying my crime, and there are many possibilities on that front. We unfortunately have to guess at why this has occurred, and that's actually a big problem in and of itself, and also indicative of the utter carelessness of the Twitter organization with regard to the propriety of its own censorial actions. I should at least know exactly what I did wrong if I am required to acknowledge that my tweet violated the Twitter rules.
Well, he was told.
Yeah, he was told pretty much exactly, I thought.
Yeah, like he was literally told exactly. Yeah. Like.
He calls it a lesser sin, but it's a term of service, right? Like we all check that box. Do you agree to the terms of service? You know, like no, dude, you got to be aware of the terms of service, and he was aware. He knew he was dead naming Elliot Page. He knew he was misgendering Elliot Page, and he did so anyway. And that's clearly harassment based upon somebody's gender identity. They literally told him exactly what he did.
Yeah.
I like how he's struggling to like this idea but he doesn't know that that tweet wouldn't have why would that tweet cause a problem? Seriously, he can't figure this out.
Yeah.
It's it's one thing if you want to pretend to be thick-witted, go right ahead, but don't act like we need to also pretend to be thick-witted with you.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, and for like, look at like, Jesus Christ, we'll take a scroll down into the comments later, because when you know, as soon as I found this video, I did have a quick look over the comments, and oh my God, Jesus Christ, his fans are out and fucking, they are up in that, like, they are so like bending over, like they are brown nosing the fuck out of him for this entire thing. But yeah, but it's just like, to them, this is the guy that they will say is like the genius. He, you know what I mean, like he has, like, he knows exactly what the fuck he's doing, like this, and it's like the genius can't figure out why that might have pissed off Twitter and why it might have violated the TOS. Like, really? Is this that hard to figure out?
He can pretend to be dumb, but don't expect me to call you Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
I'll use it like I do with Dr. Kenny Rhodes. You know, that you'll be that kind of doctor to me.
Doctor in quotations.
Yeah, I mean,
what rules, you sons of bitches? Exactly.
What? What did he say? Did he say bitches or sons of bitches?
He must have heard us. He said sons of
I'm
bitches.
Like, to acknowledge that my tweet violated the Twitter rules. What rules, you sons of bitches?
It's like getting cussed out by Kermit. It's hilarious.
It's not just that though, but it's just, I'm so sorry. He is literally the least threatening man that I have ever.
Yeah,
well, we've seen him cry so many times, you know, and he's like.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even that. But just look at. I mean, just look at his face.
It looks like he's going for the poster boy of white privilege. Just like you're gonna look up white privilege in the dictionary, you're gonna see this picture right here.
What? Yeah, literally that specific fucking freeze frame. Yeah, but it's just like, it's that, and it's his voice as well. I mean, I'm sorry, you literally sound like fucking Kermit the Frog. Like you're just.
And here's the thing, like, he's wearing a suit. So he gets in trouble, right? Like I don't want to belabor this too much, but this reminds me a little bit of when, if anyone's seen the movie Step Brothers, when the two of them
when they go for the interviews
and they're wearing a fucking tuxedos, and the part of the end he's like, "Did you just fart?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Wait, I think you guys are idiots." Now that I'm thinking about it, the tuxedos seem really fucked up. Yeah, get out. But this guy responds to this controversy, this dust stuff. Like, he's suspended until he does what Twitter wants, right? It's just that simple. So he creates a almost 15-minute video, professionally photographed, right? Somebody, like, there's multiple angles on this stuff.
Yes, I noticed that.
Wore that suit, right? It's hilarious. Like, now I'm gonna get on here and call Twitter sons of bitches. Like, oh, hilarious.
Yeah, but yes, like that is definitely like one thing that I kind of picked up on in the clips that I'd seen, and now obviously so far it's like, You know what I mean? He has the fucking backdrop going on there. He has the fucking professional lighting, the 2 camera angles just to bitch and complain.
Portraiture, yeah, like he's a professional complainer at this point. Like this is great. What a weirdo.
Yeah.
Twitter must mean a lot to Jordan.
Yeah.
Sam just said, yeah.
Yeah, he must really like Twitter, you know. I try to stay off the cesspool as much as I can. Yeah.
I mean, like, it has its uses for me, and I do enjoy Twitter, like, generally, but I'm not going to disagree. It is an absolute fucking cesspool, like, definitely. Like,
I get in so much trouble when I start looking at Twitter. It's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Although I still like Twitter more than Facebook. So.
Yeah, I think I do too. I don't like Facebook at all. So
I haven't been on Facebook in like, I'm gonna say like 9 months. Like I just don't go onto it. I opened up Facebook like accidentally, like I don't know, a couple of days ago, and I had 96 notifications that they just stopped sending me because I just wasn't checking the app.
I mean, I usually have it up nonstop. I just never look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't go on Facebook. It's just but anyway, that is way boy off track. So
well, I think we needed to go off track because I mean he's already been bad, and it's just gonna get worse. It's gonna be shit.
Yeah.
Rules. What rules, you sons of bitches? Exactly. Precisely. Because such things matter when the accusations start flying. So what did I say that might constitute harassment? Well, many things, hypothetically. Let's begin with, remember when pride was a sin? Although that is merely a factual statement, because under the old rules, applicable even a decade ago, pride was a sin and had been recognized as perhaps the cardinal sin for thousands of years.
Wait, what do they mean by applicable even a decade ago? Like, I know literally what each of those individual words mean, but
he might have just
a sin was applicable a decade ago. Fucking where?
I don't.
Not in any fucking country he's been in the last couple of years. It's just no. Like what
he might have watched that movie 7 again, you know, and about the 7 deadly sins and shit, you know.
Yeah, or well, look, maybe he's just being like, maybe this is like, you know, in this entire video, like the like only like, you know, fucking 4th dimensional 3D chess type of like meta joke that he said that now the US has basically gone back to the 70s. A decade ago would have been the 60s, and maybe some more so applicable then. So, you know, well, that's giving him way the fuck too much credit than he deserves, I think. But
yeah, you know. And he's playing dumb again, right? Like what, you know, that's just a factual statement. I'm talking about Christianity, right? Well, no, like if you look at that tweet again, I guarantee you he capitalized pride, right? Like it wasn't a lowercase p. It was an uppercase P. He was referring to the movement. He was referring to Pride Month, and he was being a douchebag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, like definitely. Like he was just intentionally being an asshole. Like he was trying to offend as many people as possible. Like, yes, it was like majority about Elliot Page, but you know, he was also kind of going after Pride as well. You know, and sure, like, what was it like when he sent the tweet out? Was it like only like the 1st or 2nd of July? So it was only kind of, you know what I mean? It was just like just after Pride Month.
Yeah, end of it, because I think this video was from like the 1st of July, maybe. It was like 5 days ago, so yeah, say about probably the 1st.
Yeah, he posted it on the 1st, so it would have happened before then. Yeah. So yeah, but like basically just kind of right before the very, very end of Pride, like.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess he's just full-blown Christian now. So like every Christian in the country, you know, like their amount of triggered during Pride Month just grows throughout the entire month. Like I've seen, you know, I like debating CJ Cox, but looking at his Facebook page this month every year is like fucking torture, man. It starts off small, but by the end of it, Holy shit.
Yeah, we'll save that discussion for a different day.
Previously, it still might be regarded as unacceptable to the woke authoritarian moralists who now insist, for example, that we celebrate Pride Month, not hour or day or week, but month, and who have literally called...
Yeah, no, he's just so angry. He's so angry about Pride Month. He's
it
so
could be
angry about it.
We could have declared a Pride moment of silence, and that's it. And he's going to pretend like he wouldn't be equally outraged by it. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We get it, Pride Month, Pride Year. That's not the problem. It ain't the duration of time.
I love his terminology there. Woke authoritative moralists.
Well,
right?
yeah, as if he's not moralizing right now. Like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah, this is just his moralizing.
Yeah,
right? The right thing to do is to let me say hateful things wherever and whenever I please. Like, no, old man, that's not how this works. Right? Like, get it. Get your fucking act together. It seems like he can put it in effort. I mean, he put that fucking suit on. He's got a damn vest, for God's sake.
Yeah, like it's a full-on fucking 3-piece suit, like.
If you want to show people that you don't give a fuck, if he really wants to show the sons of bitches at Twitter that he doesn't give a fuck, maybe don't dress up like you're going out for a nice dinner.
Yeah, and he's got to have the AC just like pumping, man. Yeah, I mean, he's in that 3-piece suit, and he's going to be like one take, 14, almost 15 minutes, and he's not going to drop a bead of sweat. Like, so, I mean, that AC must be on like 60.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because like, yeah, he's in a fucking 3-piece suit, a buttoned-up shirt, a tie. That's kind of okay. Apart from the vest, that's pretty much what I was wearing today, and it's not even like super fucking like warm here or anything. But man, I was fucking. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was fucking sweating balls. Like I'm you know what I mean? Like, and like that's just kind of like just walking around the building. It's not even doing anything like massive, like or whatever. So yeah, he's under fucking studio lights. He has to have that AC fucking cranked.
Yeah, but he's wearing 3 or 4 pounds of that that good that sweat blackened studio makeup though, because he's got like a nice even complexion. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's one thing. If I ever start wearing makeup for YouTube, I want somebody to slap me. Like literally come to my house and just slap me.
I honestly think that Rage, if you and I ever do a video together, I want us to dress up in suits and put up on this kind of makeup and do the video exactly like this, and then have this snotty round table, just sitting, maybe a coffee table, end table between us, sipping coffee out of China or something like that, and talking about the sons of bitches.
Yeah, I remember way back in the day, I watched a video of PewDiePie putting on makeup for YouTube, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, or like you could tell like Anna Kasparian does it for the Young Turks because like her neckline is red, then everything else is just perfection, right?
Yeah,
nope, I'm never doing that shit.
Especially when she gets angry, and then the neck gets redder. It's like you can really tell, like, but her face isn't changing at all. It's like. It's great. It's great gear that you're using there, Anna. But maybe more neck coverage. For me, that's the weirdest. He sat for makeup. He sat in a chair for that, and got made up. This whole thing as a way to like. Why didn't you just video yourself with your phone from like your bed, wearing like a big shirt or something?
It would have been a lot more authentic. Yeah.
Right, and then rip a fart and tell them that they can suck a butt, and then just be childish and let it go. But instead he's like, I'm going to go out here and do this like performance piece in response to Twitter and the woke authoritarian moralists. Like, all right, man, you do you. You clearly have a shitload of time on your hands.
So anyway, yes, I'm so sorry. We've been joined by Bree.
Hey, Bree.
So as yet another member of the LGBTQ army. What do you like? What's your kind of what's your thoughts on the video so far?
Yeah, I was watching this video and I was like, hey, look, it's 3 white dudes in there doing this review of this asshole talking about trans people. And I thought, hey, I'm a trans people. I'm in there, and it wouldn't be just 3 cis white dudes bitching about it. we actually see representation. So hi.
Yeah. Yeah,
From
well,
yourself,
sorry, go on.
he's demanding his right to dead name somebody, which you do have the right to dead name somebody. You have the human right to dead name somebody. Nobody can restrict that from you, but you're not free of the consequences of that. And when you sign the terms of service that says you aren't going to bully somebody, and somebody considers being dead named bullying, then surprise you're a bully.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially, yeah. Yeah, yeah, because like that's kind of been like pretty much the first little bit of this, or like, yeah, the whole point of the video was that he just wants to be able to get away with dead naming people, and it's just like, nah, bro, you can't do that. Like,
for what? For cruelty, right? I mean, what other reason is there to dead name? Even if you don't believe I'm a woman, I don't care if you believe I'm a woman, but when you talk to me, you're going to address me as she.
yeah,
You're going to her, because that's the way it is.
yeah,
that's the way society works. I decide what you get to call me. You don't get to decide that. You can be a dick about it and call me he, him. But are gonna see you as that. Because we've had people with students writing down people with changing their names as they into different schools. Half of our are made up from what you're, half the last names of Europeans. So all names are made up. They're not fucking sacred. Let's just get over that hill, because we are who we are, and we want to be identified as who we want to be identified as. And fuck you if you don't like it. Then you're going to reap the benefits of society ostracizing your ass. Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
yeah. I mean, like, like, look, yes, I obviously agreed with everything like that you said, but more so to the point of, yeah, it's just a fucking name. You know what I mean? It's a collection of sounds that we have trained ourselves to respond to if somebody makes those collection of sounds. That's it. That's all it is.
But what do you think Jordan Peterson calls Mr. T? Do you think
Mr. T, probably.
Mr. T? Right.
Yeah.
If that can come out of your mouth and you're okay with it,
yeah.
Get over yourself. Get over your pride. Speaking of pride.
Yeah.
I don't know, with the bigotry that Peterson seems able to exude. I wouldn't I wouldn't put it past a man to call Mr. T a different name.
Oh yeah, well, we won't. That's a whole different bridge that we probably won't have to eventually. And I'll come on that bridge with you, Knock, when that. Hey, Knock, remember when you said this was going to happen? Here it is, and we'll have him do it.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you, Bree. And it's like whenever people use these, use their bigotry openly, and they feel like they have a freedom of speech to do so. I'm like you. I totally agree with them. Yeah, you have that human right to say pretty much whatever the fuck you want to say. But if you go around saying, "Hey, I'm going to kill a bunch of people," there's consequences to that, right? And if you go around being bigoted, there's also consequences to that. Yeah, you have that freedom of speech to be as bigoted as you want, but we have our freedom of speech to call you a bigot. We can do so very, very loudly, and we can try to make everybody know just exactly how fucking awful you are. That's called freedom of speech.
And these are the same people that fought so hard to get the baker to not have to make the gay wedding cake, but they want to make Twitter adhere to what their social standard is, but they don't want to hold any other businesses that are discriminating accountable for that. They want to be able to say whatever they want, but not have to do anything or sacrifice anything of their belief system.
Yep.
Yeah, but fuck, I had a point there. Now it's gone. Sorry, Knock, you can go on.
I didn't mean to steamroll.
You're okay. You're okay.
Well, no, I exactly agree. It's all about their individual rights, but not so much about everybody's individual rights. I think that's been. I think I've been able to make that clear just recently with the people I've been talking to about abortion, gun rights, You know, like a good analogy is, they think they have the right to protect themselves in their home and kill an intruder, but they don't think a woman has the right to protect herself from a pregnancy. It's a double standard, and I totally agree. I think that they're for individual rights, but we seem to be for individual rights for everyone. They're their own individual rights, and they need to be called out for it. And unfortunately, it seems like their side is winning because the silent minority has all the power. They have the courts in their pocket now.
Well, that's the thing. They want to differentiate between that home invader and the pregnancy. There's really no difference. A person entering you without permission. I don't want to compare to grape, but I will compare it to invader at the very least. If they're welcome there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was what I had thought of there. It's like the people who are crying about this the most, they still haven't quite somehow realized that Twitter is not the government, and therefore can tell you to shut the fuck up if it disagrees with what you say. The government can't do that because you have free speech laws. But Twitter is a private business, and they can do whatever the fuck it wants, rightly or wrongly. And you can disagree or you can agree or whatever. But you sign up for Twitter, you sign up to play by Twitter's rules.
And they do recognize that. But Republicans try to pass a bill recognizing these major, Silicon Valley tech companies as a branch of government. So they could go after them for restricting speech or hold them to the same standards we would hold the government to. And it's ridiculous. It's just they want to be as nasty. They want to be able to say whatever the fuck they want to say. And if they have their way, it's not going to be just acceptable to be bigoted like Jordan Peterson is here towards trans people. It's going to be open season. People are going to just be able to say the N-word again. They're just going to be, you woke authoritative leftists are just being fucking triggered. No, dude, you're a shit bigot, and you need to be recognized as such. And you definitely don't need to be passing laws so you can have just free reign to do whatever you want anywhere you want. No, that's not how it works.
No consequences.
Well, not for him anyway, or he doesn't want them. But I don't know. Anyhow, we shall burst on.
January 6th stuff. Has he ever spoken about that at all?
I don't think so.
I'd be interested to hear what he had to say about it.
I don't think so.
I can't remember him saying anything. I can't remember him saying anything about that. He has a. Like I said earlier, I think that this is his play to get back into the limelight because, ever since his mental breakdown, the drug addiction became public and the rehab became public, I haven't really heard much from him. But I wasn't really looking either.
Yeah, true.
It Pride Month instead of LGBT plus month or whatever else alphabet acronym which is currently insisted upon as the only acceptable enlightened terminology.
Wait, what? It's called LGBTQ because it stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer. What else? What other fucking letters would we use? What the fuck? Does he not know how acronyms work?
To put on there for ACE.
What?
I think he's talking about the IA they used to put on there for ACE. I can't remember what the I was for off the top of my head, but
intersex and then asexual.
Yeah, you got it. You got ACE. And just that's the Dave Chappelle joke was about that, about the alphabet people. And I don't disagree that the acronyms, it's getting too long. We need to come up with a better word. And I think pride is the good word. He wants to say, why are you doing this instead of using this LGBTQIA, the mocks for being so long? And then we picked this 4-letter or 5-letter word and say we're going to use this instead. And it's like, oh, why are you using that instead of your acronym? Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
well, look, I mean, waiting for Jordan Peterson to make sense when he says something, we'll be waiting for quite some time. So, you know.
He needs to go to a self-induced coma to heal from whatever butt hurt he has from Twitter.
Mm-hmm. So, which is what it comes down to. He's just literally butthurt.
But
Yeah.
is he capable of a take that's not immediately groan inducing? Like, oh, and look at this. Yeah, I mean, he's complaining about the length of an abbreviation, for God's sake. I mean, this guy's awful. Like, find something else to complain about. Jesus Christ, you can't be this triggered by this stuff.
Yeah, but for the next week, Twitter, it's going to be all these arguments and talk. They're going to beat us over the head with these talking points he lays.
Huh? Yeah.
If you want Twitter,
Sorry, Bree?
I said it's going to be we're going to be bashed over the head with these talking points for the next week or so on Twitter. If you all engage out there on Twitter like I do, I know Knock will get into it sometimes, but
yeah, I left a comment actually.
Yeah, I get in trouble.
Yeah, I had kind of tweeted about the whole like Jordan Peterson thing, like, and the amount of people like that were kind of back and forth like with me, like trying to fucking justify what he did, like, or trying to say like, oh no, that like there was no explanation given. I'm like, yes, the fuck there was. He literally says it in the video that we've now seen. I had seen it in the clip, like, but it's just look, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, people that justify this, they've been Peterson fanboys for a decade now. You know, they've probably been incels for a decade indoors. They haven't been on a date. They're very, very frustrated. And yeah, they're going to pretty much back up anything he says. But you know, it ultimately comes down to they want to be able to be as bigoted as they possibly can as well. So if people like Peterson can win these culture wars, well, then, you know, that just gives them that element of what they would call freedom that they want so desperately.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry. Introductions, everyone. This is my housemate Becca. Really. Yeah.
Hello.
So
Yeah. You are also part of the LGBTQ army, so we are outnumbering you now. Well, you are. Yeah.
Steven, are you saying you're part of the LGBTQ community?
Yeah.
Are you queer?
Pan.
You're pan?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I just kind of assumed that you knew. I kind of talked about it publicly, you know, a few times on my channel and on MathPigs, like, so I kind of thought. But anyway, look, it's not. Yeah. You know now.
I'm sorry I called you cis hat then.
You're all no. You're all good. You're all good. Well, yeah. I'm still cis, but anyhow. Why is this not? There we go.
I don't regard pride as a virtue. It has been classically regarded as a sin. I don't see that sexual orientation or sexual desire of any sort is something to celebrate or to take pride in. And so what I said was merely a fact. Now, it's possible that I hurt someone's feelings because I pointed out that pride...
Hey, I'm proud of you, son, for what you've done here. No, Jordan Peterson's like, no, don't be proud of your kids. Good grief, that's a sin.
Yeah, but like being proud about, like, I don't know, what did he say there at the start? Being proud about like your sexual exploits or something? Like, I don't know. I think
he's never been in a locker room, you know, like
definitely not.
Being proud of your sexual desires, which is like, okay, I don't think that's what people are proud of so much, right? The idea is being proud and being capable of being, you know, honest about who you are and the people that you're attracted to.
You can make a case that it's not something that you have to be proud about, but it's because we were conditioned to be ashamed about it for fucking centuries.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're encouraged to be proud about it now. If you weren't ashamed about it, if we didn't spend centuries shaming people about it, then we wouldn't need it.
Exactly. I don't get his point there. Like, did you not hear the Donald Trump tape? Like, locker room talk is a thing now. Like, people are clear, like Donald Trump is clearly proud of the exploit that he was describing in that tape.
Yeah, and he does seem
And
to
I've been in locker rooms. They're horrible. Like men are horrible human beings. Like
Yeah.
we're just horrible.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I heard him say that, and I was like, okay, I think I'm going to have some feelings.
But I mean, if you've ever been on the football team, you know what I'm talking about. Like people say some horrible shit, man. When you're in that locker room and you're in your jock strap, you know the testosterone's flowing through you because you done knock some heads for an hour and a half. You know, like men can be really, really, very, very descriptive of the people they say that they love. And they'll say everything. They'll tell everything. They'll make shit up just to make it sound better.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, not the gays that are filling my inboxes with their penises right now. I'm gonna put that out there.
That happened live on stream with Shannon Q on my channel. Somebody literally sent her a dick pic while she was live on stream.
God
Since I
damn.
changed my profile picture on Facebook, yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for the ladies. I didn't know that this was happening to you guys so much.
Like, I have a background in sex work per se, and my DMs, given my profession of sorts, are horrible. It's ridiculous how. So my normal Instagram and all that, I still get ridiculous amounts of unsolicited messages saying how they'd like to ride me many ways, just for one example. And I'm kind of like, I posted a picture of me by a river. What happened in there?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, as a cis man, I don't fucking understand it. I've never felt the need to just take a photo of my penis and send it to some stranger. I don't get it.
Yeah, like I had said to you, I don't know how long ago I said it, but like I have never sent a dick pic in my life. I've never done it because it's just like I don't know, man. Like it's just weird to me. Like even kind of thinking about like trying to do it because like, do you know what I mean? Like you're trying to like maintain like peak mast at the same time as you're trying to kind of get it where it looks its biggest, and you know what I mean, like, and then the concentration, it like starts to flow away from here to here, and then it's just a mess. And so I just never it's just like,
I can imagine it's quite like Jordan Peterson here. You're trying to get that exact lighting down in exact position, right?
Just put a bow tie on it. That's what he'd do. He'd put a bow tie on it. Yeah.
What'd you say, Bree?
I said you need to message Jordan Peterson and find out who does his lighting so you can hire him to do your dick pics.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, then at least all of the other jobs are not mine, It's just like there's someone else taking care of those. Jesus.
It goes before, for example, a fall, but I don't care about that. Would do it again. And also consider it my duty to warn those who are about to fall into a pit that the path they are on leads suddenly downhill. But that was probably not the reason that I was banned from Twitter, although, as I said, I am in the position of having to guess. Next phrase to interrogate. And Ellen Page. Now, why did I stop there?
Sorry?
That was it right there. He wants to know why.
Yeah. You've just said exactly why you were banned. You've just said it.
You saying it right now is not, doing it again doesn't help your case.
Yeah.
Because in all likelihood, it was this seemingly innocuous phrase, including the name of a well-known actress, there I'm in trouble again, that likely resulted in my ban. I committed the fatal crime of what has come to be known in the appalling sensorial terminology of the insane activists as dead naming, which is the act of referring to someone who has transitioned, another hated piece of jargon and slogan, by the name and by the inference, the gender, really the sex, that everyone knew them by previously, and in the case of Ellen/Elliot, that millions of people recognized and knew. So I should have...
Why is he saying Ellen/Elliot? Like,
Maybe he's got like porn fanfic in his head between them. That's what slash means to me.
but it's just like he knows what his name is. Like, I mean, he knew what his name is when he wrote the tweet, but like, you definitely know what it is now, even if for some like reason, which I wouldn't accept that he didn't know it before he made the tweet, but he 100% knows now. Just like, just keep saying Elliot. Why do you keep going back to dead naming him?
He'll die if he does that, you know.
Culture war general, you know, he's making a play for that division, you know, and he wants that side that's trying to take over the country, that's possibly the continent. Who the hell knows? He's up in Canada, I'm assuming. You know, like, he's playing to those culture wars specifically, and he's doing it quite intentionally. Like, this dude is a doctor, and from everybody that I talked to, like, he used to be a very respectable doctor, but he made that choice. He made that choice to have a profitable life, whether he believes it or not. At this point, I tend to think that he believes his own bullshit, but you know, he made that decision to go that route quite a long time ago.
Yeah, like he's like definitely kind of gone down the whole like grifty route. Like, again, I don't really know how much of it he actually. Oh, Bree's gone. I'm sure she'll be back.
Yeah, she said she'll be right back. I know that, like, at one point he was pulling in like $250,000 a month from his Patreon.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like some kind of outrageous number.
Yeah, but you know, incels gotta have their daddy, so they have to reward their daddy as well.
Yeah. Incels, bigots, they all need their champions because, you know, like I said, they're usually too cowardly to be open about it themselves. So they need somebody to embolden them. They need that strong man. It's why Donald Trump is so popular in America.
Yeah, true.
have either called him, her, they, Elliot, instead of Ellen, although, as we will discover, that would have made it impossible for me to say what I wanted to and need to say in the remaining phrases. Not that such a problem would bother those who are objecting to my speech in the first place. The next phrase is, just had her breasts removed. This bit suffers from a very similar problem. I employed the forbidden pronoun her when Elliot, Ellen, is now to be regarded as a he or else. But there's a conundrum here, to say the least, and not just for me, although I have been banned because of it. Was Elliot/Ellen a she or a he, or Ellen or Elliot, when she or he or they, that's Elliot or Elian, by the way, had his or her or their breasts removed? If he or she was a he, then why was it necessary to have the mastectomy?
I mean, okay, aside from the fact that his constant thing of, like, he, him, her, their, they, it's, like, as confusing as all that fucking is, does he seriously not know what top surgery is? And the fact that, like, an awful lot of trans men need to have top surgery?
Oh, I'm sure he does. He knows. You know, he's just once again playing stupid.
Yeah, like, yeah.
You know, and he puts it in a way like, you know, like it's this absolute thing when. I have a lot of trans friends, and every single one of them, especially once they first become trans, you know, they give you certain leeway, right? And there'll come a point when they're like, dude, come on, you know, it's been 6 months, but like usually they're going to give you certain leeway. That's not the issue. The issue is you're intentionally doing it. As Steven said, like, he clearly knew when he sent out that tweet what his gender is, and he's choosing not to do it. That there lies the problem, not the fact that yeah, I mean, if you've been a fan since Bruno, right? I could almost see it, but like, that's not the case here. He's intentionally doing it. And then even a true fan since Bruno would know that this has been an issue, and Elliot has kind of talked openly and has never really ran away from it his entire career.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I don't know, was it I think it's kind of fantastic though, like this is kind of a slight aside, but it's like still somewhat related. I think it's like really, really, really good that like an awful lot of the streaming services, like, what was it, me and you were scrolling through, was it Prime?
Yeah.
And when the like about section of Juno came up, it had changed the name in it.
Yeah.
So it's you know like, yeah, I don't know, that I just think is just fantastic, like, because like, even though it is kind of like, a relatively kind of a small step, like, we'll say, like, it's still, I don't know, it still just fucking says a lot, and it's going to mean a lot, obviously, to him, like, to see, even though, movies that he did in the past by a different identity has now been updated to reflect who he is now,
Yeah, and it helps with dysphoria. Atheist Rationale used to come on my streams all the time as Atheist Rationale, old YouTube name. And she is known as Shay now, and has come a long way in her transition, and reached out to me and asked me to take down all those old streams. I started to do it, but it's like finding a needle in the haystack because there was so many of them back then.
Yeah.
And Shay was always in the stream, so trying to find ones where she's in there. But eventually I'll have every single one of those down, because I don't, it's no skin off my back. Though they're 4 years old, I don't want to add to somebody's shit. I'm not gonna be I don't want to be a cause of anybody's pain. And not only that, I don't know if you've seen the new season of Umbrella Academy, but there's a wonderful arc in there where she literally comes out, or he literally comes out as a man. It starts off with the old character from season 2, but within the first 2 episodes, Elliot becomes Victor in the season. So made his statement publicly as well on a very popular show, as well as bravely doing it publicly on social media as well. So yeah, to me, this is all nonsense. This is culture war bullshit that they claim the left of doing, when it's actually the right that does it.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff, we haven't heard from you in a while, man. You still there?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
And I'm gonna shut up for a minute. I've been smoking a pipe trying to get off of fucking cigarettes, and I need to go get a cigarette. So I'm gonna be right back.
No problem, man. No problem. No, it's just because like someone in the live chat actually said that like apparently you have a rep for falling asleep during streams, and then it was just like, yeah, hang on, he hasn't spoken in a little while. It's just like, you good?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Yeah, he's sound asleep. No.
It's just checking.
I have been known to nod off from time to time. Sure.
All right, okay. Just to kind of check if there was
that.
some truth to it,
There is, unfortunately, yeah.
And how could those I am writing to make sense of what I was saying if it was his breasts that were removed? Were those
Men have
male
breasts.
breasts or female breasts that were removed? If they were male breasts,
Wait, male breast or
What?
female breast? It's just the fucking tissue from
What
that
difference would
area.
Honestly,
Sorry.
this is even worse than before. This is worse than one. I think this might even be worse than I'd rather die than take down my tweet right now. It's
Yeah.
like, I had to use the wrong pronoun because I'm talking about breasts. Like, oh, Why? That still doesn't make any sense. Like, not following you, dude. Yeah, like, well, her breasts or his breasts? Like, well, since Elliot Page is him now.
Yeah, that's
they were his breasts.
Yeah. But it's just like, didn't The Rock have like a breast reduction surgery? Didn't he have something like that? I mean, it was all to do with steroids, like, cause like he's fucking hopping them, like, but like, and like that is apparently like a side effect of them, like that you can get enough fat tissue. So like, it's just like
gynecomastia.
Yeah, like that, like it's not just like women who want like, or sorry, it's not just people who want like a breast reduction. It's not just people who, are trans who have that operation. It's a lot of different fucking people for a lot of different reasons. This shouldn't be complicated. Like, it happens to people.
And this guy's kind of in the medical community, right? I mean, I know he's not a psychiatrist, so he doesn't have that medical degree, but he is a psychologist, and he did engage in therapy. So like, I mean, he's part of the mental health community. Like,
yeah.
But then again, the stuff that he doesn't seem to know about, like, I mean, I feel a little judgmental doing this, but like when he explained like his breakdown because he was abusing benzos, right? He's a psychologist and he's friends and colleagues with lots of psychiatrists, right? So as a psychologist, he obviously can't prescribe. Well, I don't know. In Canada, I think it works the same way. So I'm just generalizing. But generally, you got to have the medical degree if you're going to, prescribe the drugs. So I don't think he does that. But he's going to be acquainted with these, and he knows what benzos do, right? And I saw him in an interview where he was like, "Oh yeah, I was taking way too many of them. I was taking them for way too many for way too long, and then when I realized that I was doing that, I quit cold turkey." And I'm like, okay, so you realized that what you were doing was wrong. So you went ahead and did the worst thing that you can do with long-term benzo abuse, which is quit cold turkey. That's a good way to have a psychotic break. And that's exactly what he had. Because then he goes on this pity party kind of thing. Like, I had seizures. I had hallucination. Like, yeah, you were tripping balls because you just slammed your brain into reverse after abusing benzos. That's going to happen. He's known colleagues for years that would have told him that. But he was just full steam ahead. Like, oh, I'm going to take these to help my anxiety. And it's like, okay, you're taking too many of those. Oh shit, really? Okay, stop. Like, no, don't do that either.
Yeah.
Like, and I think he quit of all places. He was on like a book tour. I think he was in Russia.
Yeah.
He quit there, and he just lost his mind. I'm like.
Yeah,
I mean,
he went into.
I feel bad for anybody that have to go through that, but it's like you couldn't. I mean, of all the people that I would think would know, that's exactly how you line that up. That's exactly how you induce that kind of that reaction. Here we are.
Then why were they removed? If they were female breasts and had therefore become objectionable to the degree that surgery generally reserved for cancer treatment was required, was morally obligatory, then wasn't Elliot still Ellen and he still she? How could I possibly have written that sentence in any sensible manner whatsoever, while simultaneously making my point understandably and not breaking Twitter rules against so-called hateful conduct? And Elliot Page just had his breasts removed?
That doesn't make sense.
Then?
Yeah.
When exactly? Exactly. He was definitely Ellen at some point in the past, or so indicate all his, her, them, their film credits. Will all those have to be reshot since they employed the hated dead name? That doesn't exist.
Well, wait, hang on.
By the way, that dead name category.
But like, that's literally what has happened.
I like how he does
happened.
Yeah, and this is something he's had conversations with Stephen Fry, at least one conversation with Stephen Fry. And when he was having that conversation, Stephen Fry, who was known in the past for being one of these guys that would correct people. I mean, Stephen Fry is a brilliant guy, right? And he had kind of a reputation when he was younger for correcting people's grammar and their vocabulary, their word choices and stuff like that. And he wrote I don't know if he wrote this down or if I heard it in a lecture, But he basically he said he had to stop doing that because he realized that he was being a bore, right? Because that's not how language works. Language changes a lot. And if you're just one of these people that sits there and tries to make these declarations about how these words mean this and only this, and no one's allowed to use them any differently, he's like, you can't possibly enforce that, and you can't predict that it's not going to change at some point. People are going to use words differently. They will start to change in ways no one could have predicted. So when he's just leaning forward and like, oh, the dead naming, that's not an actual thing. Yeah, it fucking is. Just because you insist that it shouldn't happen. Like Jordan Peterson is this Sisyphus that's trying to, roll that rock up the hill. Like he's the one man that's trying to save society from itself. It's like that stuff's happening with words all the time, right? And even a conversation with Stephen Fry, he's still doubling down on this just ossified, cranky old douchebag routine. As if he's got the moral high ground. That's like you're just demonstrably wrong here, and he's not being smart or inspirational at all. He's just fucking around.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah, absolutely.
I get a lot of amusement out of people like him that when they're talking about trans people and all that, they always resort back to their actual bodies and their body chemistry if they have boobs or whatever, and it just makes me wonder, like, do they suddenly think when someone goes and gets, say they have a hysterectomy, say they have a mastectomy, are they suddenly not women to them? Like, sorry, are they suddenly
less male?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it just baffles me how some of these guys think, because they always resort back to their physical bodies and what they have. And sure, like, an example that I find a lot is people will be like, oh, well, when you have the case of a trans man, they'll be like, oh, well, he can still have a baby, so he's female. And it's like, he has a uterus. That's a medical thing. It's not their gender, obviously.
Yeah.
And they always go back to that kind of thing. And you can explain like 20 times to them and be like, that's is though, it's they have. And it's like, it's such a difficult concept that if have boob must be woman, right? Like, very caveman thinking to me,
It's really superficial, and and for whatever reason they think that they're the ones that are not, but they think that they're appealing to common sense, and it's like, no, but that's not actually common sense, right? Like the idea of just saying, well, gender and sex are exactly the same thing, like they're not. And well, the thing that to go along with that is the idea of, connected to this kind of stuff, is the idea of, like, kids being exposed to drag shows, this bullshit, right? And the whole thing, it seems to be, is that if kids see this kind of performative sexuality, which they say is drag, which drag isn't always sexual, but because it's people wearing gender, wearing intentionally the opposite gender's clothing, right, dressing up for effect. Well, this is something that's going to confuse the kids, and I'm like, okay, well, if that's performative sexuality, then what, like, well, my kid's going to have questions and feelings. Like, your kid's going to have questions and feelings the first time. If it's a cisgender straight boy, he's going to have questions the first time he sees a woman, sees a girl and is attracted to her. The same thing for a girl that's straight. Those questions are going to happen anyway. This idea of, like, well, we have these LGBTQ people roaming through the countryside, wafting their performative sexuality at our kids, and they're turning them, and they're confusing them and stuff like that's a bunch of horse shit, right? But it's all about that superficial stuff, right? Like that, like what they need to be. The men need to be men, and the women need to be women. That way, the kids can keep it straight. Like, I don't think the kids are having trouble with this. It's the parents that seem to have a problem with this, and then they're just bullshit. Yeah, and then the anxiety is getting. They're all they're doing is just feeding their kids a bunch of anxiety because they can't sort something out.
Well, so. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, look, if like a non-sexualized drag show is still kind of flaunting, or like, yes, flaunting that, and is like, intentionally or unintentionally kind of like corrupting like people's minds and stuff like that, and like, and it's kind of, you know, if it's making some people be gay, well, I mean, like, then couldn't you kind of take that really bad logic and kind of say, well, because there are, like, you know, child beauty pageants, that it's grooming people into being pedophiles? Take the exact same logic, and just, you know, but like, look, they are fucking creepy and they need to stop. Like, why that is ever, like, or, you know, was ever a thing, I don't know, but but again, conversation for a different day. But yeah, like, you like literally could just take that really bad logic and just apply it to that.
I think it'd be like one of those situations where they seem to think that, you know, well, that would be grooming your kid if you're exposing them to that kind of performative sexuality. It's like, okay, but don't you remember, like, the gay panic comedies from, like, the 70s and 80s, where the dad is worried about the direction little Jimmy's taking? You know, maybe he's a little interested in, you know, he's interested in football, but not for the game, you know? And so, you know, now he's got to do something about him. So what does he do? He's like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to, you know, I'm going to take you to a strip show, and I'm going to have you sit there and have a you know, a stripper do an erotic dance. It's like, okay, aren't you grooming that kid?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, this kind of
partly traumatizing them with the process.
Exactly.
Young
right.
enough.
But it's like, well, this will make a man out of him. And it's like, you're grooming him, right? Because if you thought that would work, what, you know, in most everybody, well, no, that's ridiculous. That's not going to work. Then what makes you think the drag's going to work?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Drag is not going to make your kid straight or gay. It's not. That's not how gay and straight work. That's just a goofy thing. Yeah. So it's weird that people can't work their way through that confused narrative, and even just go back to a dumber time. You know, when people were even more you know, more goofed up about these ideas. I'm like, yeah, remember that kind of stupid logic, this gay panic crap that would happen in movies? And oh yeah. I'm like, wouldn't that be bad for a kid? Same thing. Yeah. Same, like,
and again, like, they're only worried about a certain type of performative sexuality. Like, everything's you know, when Scott Wolf is pining over Katie Holmes on Dawson's Creek, that's performative sexuality. It just fits what they're agreeable with, right? Like,
exactly.
You know, they'll never complain about Bugs Bunny dressing up as a woman and kissing Elmer Fudd. You know, like, they grew up with that shit. You know, like, this has been a thing in a society for forever. You know, we're just now finally getting to a point that we're saying, hey, let people just be people. And he's literally saying, no, I want to keep hating people for being people.
Yeah.
On the idea of, like, you know, people not having an issue with the narrative they like, couldn't you argue that in all the Disney movies where you have a princess and a prince, that you are grooming them into heterosexuality? With how much that message is pushed? Like, you need to get yourself a prince will make it all better. Now, they have changed in the recent years, which is amazing, but, you know, those stories and that kind of narrative is across everything. And no one needs to say anything about that until you have two gay parents on a show and they're like, this will confuse my children. And it's like, do you not think seeing two people, like a guy and a girl, kiss all the time is pushing one way on them? If the two of them just being a family will push them being gay? It doesn't make sense.
And they recognize gender then. That's when a lot of these conservatives, they have no problem recognizing the difference between sex and gender. Otherwise, there wouldn't be expression like, you know, he's a real man or a manly man. You know, she was a real woman, you know, or you know, a very graceful lady or something like that. Like, there's an obvious acknowledgement that that gender comes in ranges and sex is separate from that. They do get that, but they you know, conveniently forget about it and like, no, it's just this. That's it. Yeah, I don't think so. Because if that was the case, it wouldn't be so important for you to expose your kids to those old school Disney movies where the men are men and the women are women. So,
sorry, I'm just laughing. Savage has just put in the chat, who the fuck is licking their microphone?
I have a lollipop, if that's what you mean.
No, it's definitely like, I don't know. I don't know who it is, but anyway, look, it's not like I didn't actually kind of notice it until she pointed it out. So anyhow.
except in the sensorial and addled minds of a tiny fraction of insanely narcissistic and increasingly dangerous trans activists. When precisely was it incumbent on me to switch my terminology in regard to Elliot/Ellen so that I was not engaging in hateful conduct? And how can I describe the fact that someone who was once a woman, and really still is, had her breasts cut off because she, he, they, their, them had fallen prey to a viciously harmful fad without using the appropriate sex-linked pronoun and the real name of the real person to whom this was really done with his, her.
Well, why does he keep doing his, her, they, them? Why? Why does he just...
He keeps adding another every time he does it. Like, every time he keeps going on, there's like 1 or 2 more added than the last time.
He wants to convey how exhausted we should be just as exhausted about all this stuff as he is. I think that's his
to be
goal.
fair, I'm only exhausted by it because he keeps fucking doing it. If he had it just kept, like, just from the get-go said he, like anybody else would, like, it's just a, but anyway, like...
I would do my best to trigger him and say, you know what, I see what you're doing, but at least you're saying he. At least that's in the
yeah.
At least that's in the bucket.
It's in there. It's
the
in there.
Pronouns.
It's in the mix.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like,
Well,
sorry.
I think he understands that Rufus, who's going to be watching his video and getting hard off of it and going and utilizing that on his cousin, that they're really going to appreciate that usage of terminology. They're really going to get off on that, and they might even donate. So I think it's all deliberate, which we've all agreed on up to this point. At this point, like, I'm almost certain he's reading off of a teleprompter as well, because he's always looking at the same point.
Yeah.
Just he'll change up the angles. He'll have several cameras to change up the angles.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even what he had said, like, like who they really are, like, and what exactly did he say?
Harmful fad without using the appropriate sex-linked pronoun and the real name of the real person to whom...
What? Yeah, the real name of the real person. What the fuck did he mean? Like, what does...
Well, I guess, yeah, going back to an earlier point, I guess Ellen could never have changed her name to, say, Sandra.
Well, and I'm sure he doesn't have a point. He doesn't have any issue with somebody legally changing their name, right? Like, dudes, women change their name all the time. Again, like, almost every actor in Hollywood has legally changed their name.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure you don't have an issue with calling. I don't know if Brad Pitt is a stage name or not, but like, you probably don't have an issue calling Brad Pitt, even if he's a Steve, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but like, even to kind of keep with that, like, everybody knows that on her birth cert it doesn't say Lady Gaga as first and second name, but everybody still fucking refers to her as Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
Like, nobody has this thing of like, no, that's not your real name. Well, everybody knows it's not her real name. But it's still what you say when you're referring, or like when you're talking about her, like, or anything else. It's
all the bigotry in them. I remember Tupac, right? People would make fun of Tupac's name. Like, that's his real name on his real birth certificate, but they would make fun of that. Like, they couldn't accept that, right? It's all about the bigotry to them.
Yeah. Anyhow, we'll...
whom this was really done with his, her, their voluntary but unfortunate acquiescence. And so it was impossible to communicate what had happened to my audience without apparently running afoul of the impossible and absurd rules that now hypothetically govern morality itself in the days of the degenerated postmodern and Marxist ethos that we must still, no matter how impossible it is, abide by, or else. And you might object, Ellen/Elliot is an adult, 30-something, and fully capable of making up his, her, their own mind about such things, and she, he, they are welcome from the liberal and the libertarian position to go to hell in a handbasket as she, he, they see fit. And fair enough, to some degree. But I don't believe it is either merely picayune or inappropriate to point out that Ellen/Elliot, who is quite a good actor/actress, is also a ritual model.
Like he's, oh my god, it's just how purposeful he's doing it. Do you understand? Like he's
It's
just
the
trying to be the biggest bigot that he possibly can be. Like there's just no other explanation for it. Like
it's the new right wing, I guess. You know, like it's be as offensive as possible, right? And just hammer it home as much as you can. That'll really show the lips. He's really showing us right now, and he's showing us what a complete and utter nothing he is. Like nobody should take this person seriously. Unfortunately, a lot of people do, but nobody should.
yeah, and Savage has just said in the chat, female actors are just called actors anyway.
Yeah.
Like by and large, like I get like at like the like Oscars, like what is their like, you know, lead actress, like, or something like that. Like, so it's still kind of like, you know, there, but like colloquially, it's just like, you know, if you were to say about like anybody else, like Sandra Bullock, like if you were to call her an actor, I think like colloquially, it's kind of the whole like actor actress has just kind of become just blended so much that like we just don't, like, everybody knows what you mean, but just like nobody cares to correct you anymore.
Yeah.
Not very much the same kind of energy as Trisha Paytas, in that he knows everything he's saying is going to get a reaction. Like, I can't imagine him making this and sharing this as his actual thoughts, given his background. He can't actually just be sharing this without intent of getting more hype around it, per se, or, you know, getting something more to it. It's just very similar to how I think they go by now. I can't quite remember. But how they act on their social media. But the thing is, it works for them. So, obviously, what he's saying shouldn't be saying. I'm not in any way going to say support him. But it's a move, I guess. Not the best one, but still a move.
Yeah. And history shows that he's on the losing side here, right? Like, you know, we play this out with Muhammad Ali, you know, and people were up in an uproar because, you know, he was Cassius Clay and, you know, he became Muhammad Ali. And again, it all stems down to that bigotry inside of them. They couldn't accept that he was different, you know. But when it's all said and done, history doesn't remember those bigots who refused to call him Muhammad Ali. We know Muhammad Ali is the greatest boxer of all time, and that's what history is ultimately going to show about the Jordan Petersons of the world, is they just don't matter.
Yeah, I'm just sorry, just to ever so slightly just once again address Savage. She's my housemate. She's not my little lady. I mean, she is little and she is a lady, but yeah, yeah, we're just housemates.
And
but
they were roommates.
well, yeah. We have this ongoing joke that I'm her toy boy, but she's yet to put out, so it's not really. Anyhow, that's getting too much in the weeds.
For emulation, being a star with all the privileges and, let us point out, the responsibilities that go along with that. So by acquiescing to this surgery and by publicizing it, and by insisting upon the sanctity and the moral virtue of his, her, their new, expensive, dangerous, and medically enhanced identity, and by participating in the whole identity charade, Ellen/Elliot has undoubtedly, with his, her, their so-called courage, and remember, the White House itself has tweeted out every indication of believing in the courage of those who transition. enticed many a poor, confused adolescent, girl most likely, to blame her emergent pubescent self-consciousness, confusion, and discomfort on being born in the wrong body and believing that the courageous, self-affirming, and morally admirable route is hormonal treatment, sterilization, subjugation to a lifetime of expensive medical complication. How delightfully profitable is that? And misery. And I believe firmly that Ellen/Elliot, or whatever the hell her name or his name is, bears moral culpability for that. And finally, with regard to the final phrase, criminal physician, I must say that I've had some post-coital, so to speak, regrets about that phrase. It is clearly the case.
Post-coital? Wait a minute. Wait. So he admits that he's using language to fuck. Like, I mean, that's kind of a cute way of saying it, right? Like, I have a little bit of post, like, oh, okay. So you are just trying to gin up a reaction. You are just sticking it in things to see what reaction happens.
Like,
all right.
I am.
Sounds like he's trying to fill up the word count on an essay.
Yeah.
Like he's adding a lot of words that just don't seem necessary to get the point he's trying to make across.
Yeah. Every time he walks past his bookshelf
means smarter or something.
Yep. Every time he passes his bookshelf, he can never skip the opportunity to grab his thesaurus. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, this is one of the most dangerous parts of this this thing that Peterson is doing here, though, because we've seen this play out in history as well. Once you start demonizing the doctors of the thing you dislike, well, then crazy people, your crazy followers, will go and they'll start tracking down doctors, right? Because you're giving them a reason to. You're literally calling them criminal, and you're saying they're doing an evil thing. And we saw this play out. We saw Bill O'Reilly hype up his audience about a very specific abortion doctor, and his whack job audience, some whack job in his audience went and killed that doctor. And we've seen that play out time and time again throughout our society with the demonization of abortion. So now they're going that same exact route with trans now. And I've noticed this, but this is like the first really public time that I've really heard somebody who could kind of generate that kind of animosity really start to attack the doctors doing the surgeries now. And that's very, very dangerous. You know, he wants to talk about being morally culpable. Jordan Peterson needs to think about that shit himself.
What I think is interesting is that he thinks that Elliot Page is morally culpable because Elliot Page's decisions and choices will confuse adolescent girls, among others. And that's going to lead them to a life of what he believes is a life of misery, similar to his. So what I think is weird about this whole thing is like, okay, wait a minute. How far do you want to go with that? Because the particular groups, I really don't understand this. Like, these guys are usually facts don't care about your feelings, that kind of shit. So it's like, okay, well, if you're galvanized enough, if you're confident in your own stuff, what possible difference does it make that Elliot Page is a trans man? What difference does that make to you? Like, right now he's kind of shifting it, like, okay, well, now Elliot Page is morally culpable for confusing young people. How? It doesn't seem like it's confusing for most young people. It seems like it's confusing for old reactionaries like himself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If we're talking about confusing younger people, I think there's so many other things that could be targeted before someone just transitioning. That's a pretty basic thing to understand. They're not in the right body, They changed over. Surely it's a bit more difficult, or a bit more confusing, starting to understand, say, I can't think of any exact examples now, of course I can't, but oh my god, words. Much right now.
Oh, good. You know words.
I don't right now.
You can do words.
Hey, I'm a professional pothead. I lose thoughts mid sentence at least 20 times a stream. So,
but yeah, even look at the examples of, let's go back to 90s, early 2000s. Paris Hilton, one of the biggest influences, at least one of the bigger influences for me in that kind of time. Anyway, Like, she was going out and doing coke every weekend. How is that not confusing towards me as a child? Seeing this being glamorized and like, oh yeah, she's snorting cocaine and she's ridiculously skinny and like not healthy at all. Like, how is that not confusing for me to grasp? Why someone would do that? But
they don't seem to have an issue when it's like Walt Disney stars, right? Like, you know, because they all go cray cray because they become super famous when they're young, and then all these children follow these people in their social media, but they have no issues about any of that. You know, it seems very, very, it's like they're almost nearly completely blinded to everything hypocritical about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, Becca's just reading up on the fans she has in chat.
I agree that I like Irish accents. So when I talk to Math Pig, I get off. Every time I talk to Steven, I get off. I like the accent. So
it's a nice accent. It's a nice accent we have.
The surgical operation performed by the butchers who butchered Elliot/Ellen was legal. So, was it criminal or not? Were the operations undertaken by the fascist physicians who carried out the Nazi medical experiment?
Oh, fuck off!
Are you gonna tell us? Are you gonna tell us yes, Jordan? I mean, is it like, am I saying they're Nazis? No, but in this world, I mean, maybe they could be. Like, what the hell is up with this guy? Like,
Jesus
what?
fucking
I mean, well,
Christ.
oh yeah, wait. He burned out on a shitload of benzos. That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
And then spent what, 9 months, 12 months crying online every time somebody put him in front of a podcast.
Yeah.
Break down crying about how many, like, wait, you did so many goddamn drugs and then stopped him cold turkey that you broke your brain, and now everybody's supposed to feel bad for you. And now here he is, right? 3-piece suit on, fighting fit, right? Going after the woke liberals. Like, should have stayed with benzos.
Grasping for that relevance.
Yeah. Oh god. Wow. Just why does everything have to be the same as, or do you have to draw a comparison to the Nazis with these guys? Just like fucking why?
They love the Nazi card. They love it.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, kind of like look at, yes, like, Jesus Christ, like calling the doctor that did this procedure a butcher. I mean, fuck. Like, but okay. Even though, right, that sounds awful. Have you ever seen how knee surgeries are done?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are a fucked up procedure. They put like this like metal thing like around your like knee or like in it or whatever, and then you literally get a fucking hammer and just start hitting it at different. It's like, I'm sorry. Okay, I know that maybe butcher might not be like, you know, the correct sort, but it's like, people have this idea in their heads that like, because we're living in the year that we are and we're as advanced as we are and everything else, like, and oh my god, like, medical science and medical technology has gotten so far. Like, some of this shit is fucking like ridiculous. Like, how kind of like, you know, seemingly like just ancient some of these procedures are. Like, so like, I'm not going to say that like, you know, doctors or surgeons or anything else like that like are butchers, but it's just like a lot of the fucking things that they're doing, it seems like really fucking old-fashioned.
Specifically on that though, like, I would love to hear his thoughts on the procedure for getting the coil, for example. How is it butchering to get a surgery under anesthesia and all that, but it's not butchering for a doctor to, and sorry to be graphic, I'll try to keep it on the low.
It's my YouTube channel. No, yeah, it's fine.
They basically get a thing. They pierce like a hole, like not. They pierce your cervix like an inch in both ways. No fucking anesthetic. No painkillers. They give you medication to make your cervix dilate, so you're having the worst cramps of your life when this is happening. How is that not butchering? But a proper medical procedure is. Like, I'd love to know if it only matters when it comes to their arguments or if they actually just don't give a shit.
Well, he'd already acknowledged earlier that those are recognized medical procedures necessary for, say women with breast cancer, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna remove that tissue. So it's like, okay, so why is this doctor a butcher for performing this electively for a patient? Right, that's in transition. Like, what I mean, because that's really the connection he's going to have to make. I don't. If it's a recognized surgery, then he's not a criminal. It's not butchery. Right. This
Yeah,
this is just him clutching his pearls again. Like, well, it should. I'm waiting for him to. There ought to be a law against those kinds of doctors. Like, well, there are laws about that kind of thing. If all he has to do is file a medical complaint. He said he knew I think he posted in the tweet. I think he had a link to like a New York Post article. I think about her surgeon, right? He, as a member of the public, in most states, licensed doctors, and most of them have a receivership kind of thing. You can contact the state and file a complaint against a practicing physician for malpractice. And they'll ask you to cite what it is you think that he can do that. Has he done that? Doubt it, because there's no grounds for it.
Yeah, and he's deliberately demonizing these doctors. Like, he's comparing them to Nazis, but I think he's making a Freudian slip because, I mean, I'm not going to say Jordan Peterson specifically, but a lot of these people, that's what they want to do. They want to separate these people from society, put them in some camp somewhere, and I don't know, rework their brain so that they're right again or some it's crazy fascist bullshit, but I think it's very intentional, and it very well could be. Every time they bring up the Nazis, I part of me just assumes it's some Freudian slip because fascists love fascism.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, we've been going for quite some time. We still have the rest of this.
We haven't even talked Jordan Lee Peterson yet.
Yeah, I think that might have to wait. I think that might have to wait until Saturday's stream. I'm finished early on Saturday as well, and I'm going to be streaming on that. So that might
I was
have
just
to
joking.
But anyway, we'll truck through this, and then we'll talk about the one other kind of thing that I had in mind for it. But yeah, we'll get to that after this.
Legal? Yes, under the laws of the time. But were they criminal? I'll leave that question up to you to answer. And further, perhaps it might be objected, what about the damage done by hypothetically leaving those confused about their identity to dwell in their confusion? Aren't we morally obliged to intervene? And I would say, no. Why? Well, first, do no harm, as the Hippocratic Oath, remember that, insists. And second, it has been a matter of historical consensus that sins of omission are less egregious than sins of commission. Thus, leaving someone with gender dysphoria, no matter how warranted, and perhaps it is in a very tiny minority of truly unfortunate cases, to suffer the consequences of the theoretical mismatch between soul and body is less of a risk ethically, personally, socially, and philosophically than the extremely active intervention that constitutes so-called gender-confirming, another hated phrase, surgery. I might also point out that the trans surgery enterprise is now a $300 million per annum growth industry. Rate of projected expansion, 15% per year. Projected increase by 2027 to $750 million per year. An expanding enterprise in a time of global uncertainty. Time to invest, both in the requisite surgical skills and perhaps in any industry associated with this vicious and unconscionable fad, primarily entangling, as such things so often do, the youthful and female. Isn't that...
Does he realize, like, is he so stupid that he hasn't realized that for the last 5 seconds he's been railing against capitalism? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just capitalism, bro. There's a fucking market for it. People
Well, and
obviously
here's the
want
thing.
these surgeries. People need these surgeries. So you can go to college, get skilled in how to do them, and then you'll be making that fucking moolah, you know? Like, but
Does anyone else get the
capitalism, dude.
impression too that when he's talking about the growth of the industry, he's saying that in a way to imply to people that like him and listen to him that it's going to increase the number of trans people? Like, it's projected to get higher because the surgery, you know, it might be more available, right, to more people, and more people feel less stigmatized about it. So then they can, like, I don't know where he's even getting his figures, but like the idea that it's like you said, like a $300 million, that is spit in the ocean compared to what other medical enterprises in this country, just in this country. So, I mean, he can find something else to squeal about there, but this idea that like, oh, it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. Like, okay, so the evil capitalist doctors are going to provide supply side stuff, the surgeries necessary for the increase in demand. And I really do think that somewhere in Jordan's paranoid brain, the increase in the demand isn't because the people who have been suffering from dysmorphia will be able to really actually exercise the option. There will be an increase in the number of people who are doing this because they've got confused by the Elliot Pages of the world and then got sucked into this and made the wrong choice. Because that's really what his whole thing is. If you have body dysmorphia or dysphoria, well, suck it up, buttercup, right? And no medical professionals should help you in this, especially with like, you know, transition surgeries or anything, because he believes that it's unethical. Like, okay, how many people does he have? This dude was in academia, and he wasn't a slouch about it either. He went to some good schools. He's connected to some good institutions. He's connected to people in his professional circle. He can talk to them about this. This is literally just him, like probably, you know, kicking against everything in consensus mental health practices and medical practices, going on his own one-man crusade. And the only feedback he's getting are from drooling doofuses, the Rufuses, as Rage called them earlier, who are freaking out about this wave of gayness, right? Because that's really what this is about, right? It's not just trans stuff. They don't want to deal with alternative sexualities. They want that shit to go away. And not only now they want the right to be able to say whatever hateful thing they can to make those people go away. That's what this is about. I want to be able to scare these people off with nasty words and then hopefully threats, right? And when platforms like Twitter stand up to them and say, no, that's not part of our business model, fuck off, delete it or be banned, then all of a sudden Captain Free Speech here brings out his little soapbox and like, how dare they censor me? Well, if you want to be on their platform, like go to Truth Social. What's he even doing on Twitter? There's a whole group of Trump fans out there that would love to hear this hateful bullshit.
Yeah, sorry, I got mildly distracted by that phrase "wave of gayness" and was just like, I couldn't help but kind of feel like partly responsible. But anyhow, it was just such an amazing sentence. Yeah, look, we got a minute left. We'll truck through it, and then I'm hopefully done covering this Canadian Kermit the Frog for a while.
Such things so often do, the youthful and female. Isn't that a concern, intersectionalists? Not when push comes to shove or ideology to scalpel. Is that not a true moral hazard? And I'm not taking down that tweet or acknowledging that my tweet violated the Twitter rules. Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who. Twitter's a rat hole in the final analysis, and I have probably contributed to that while trying to use, understand, and master that horrible, toxic platform. No doubt, I owe some apologies for that, and I'm trying to learn, but it's a relief in some real sense to be banned, and I regard it under the present conditions as a badge of honor.
And now he's
Oh God, he's on Daily Wire. Oh my God, of course he is.
Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me.
You have to follow that grift, you know? You have to follow that grift. Jesus.
A badge of honor. I'm a martyr now, like Trump.
If you have to have the powerhouse sound play at the end of your thing to really punctuate it, like you probably weren't making as strong a point as you thought. Like, I want to get that exact sound and play it at the end of every one of mine, you know. Just
I'm always back and forth. Like, who's the biggest grifter? You know, Dave Rubin, Candace Owens, or Peterson there. And I think Titan's the one that nailed it. Yeah, because I remember this too. Like, considering he's a grifter who has literally said in public, "I found a way to monetize SJWs." Yeah, I mean that's just it. He's upping it up a notch, you know. But yeah, I mean he's a fucking just shitty ass grifter.
Titan said he did take down the tweet.
Yeah, I mean,
He already took it down. Holy shit!
Yeah,
I thought it lasted a little bit longer.
Yeah, me too. But
well, you know, he has to get that fucking wide ass audience. You know. Anyway,
a Daily Wire audiences have the memories of goldfish. I mean, the resentment and grievances last a long time, but like they won't remember a narrative for very long. So.
yeah, look, the other kind of thing that I was going to talk about, like, look, unless you have been living under a rock or just hasn't gone on any form of social media in the last couple of days, by now so many people would have heard about the headlines that were coming out of Ohio in the last couple of days, where a 10-year-old girl was rejected an abortion and had to travel out of state to have one. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's horrible, and it's absolutely like disgusting that like even in that case there couldn't be like an exception or anything else. And like, look, we like know now that her biological father was now going to or would have been the father of her child as well. So like, I don't know, man. She's fucking 10, man. Like she's 10 years old.
But she's supposed to accept it as an opportunity direct from Jesus. You know, it's an opportunity. Right, those are some of the takes, some of the literal takes.
Oh yeah. Like,
oh, but she can make lemonade out of those lemons. Like, no, she won't. It's kind of fucked up too, because what are you gonna tell her? Like for the anti-choice types, most of this shit, right? When it comes to that girl is not supposed to be in that position, right? The idea behind anti-choice and anti-abortion was supposed to be about the fact that the Roe v. Wade decision led to this sort of idea that elective abortion was just a woman's right? And that was the thing that really pissed off the anti-choicers. The notion that abortion as a procedure was going to be around was never a thing, right? That was not what they were worried about. The idea that you have to have similar procedures done for a woman who's going to hemorrhage because of an ectopic pregnancy or something like that, that's still going to be there. Any of these ding-dongs that were like, well, we just need to end abortion. You can't, because complications happen with this. The only thing that you can do, and this is what Christians want, is for the government to side with them in declaring elective abortion a form of murder, or at least manslaughter, so that they feel, more self-righteous and conceited about, living in a country that matches their churchy values, right? None of that is even fucking necessary. But when you have a situation where this gets reversed, and Ohio then is like, okay, well, we just put a blanket ban on it, and you got a 10-year-old girl, victim of rape, who's pregnant. That shit's not supposed to apply to her. But Ohio is so chock full of goofy ideological, dickheads, that they wrote a law that prevented a common sense procedure, a life-saving one, happening for her. They had to truck her across into Indiana of all fucking places, the place that had an AIDS crisis because Pence just didn't want to deal with the public health crisis, and he canceled needle exchanges. So they ended up having a huge uptick in HIV/AIDS. But that's because they haven't banned it yet. That's where she could actually get some help. I mean, The whole point of having the Supreme Court is basically to like, look, the Supreme Court makes a decision about something like this and says, look, this is a woman's right that they can pursue this, because some states are filled with just slack-jawed yokels. And those states are going to pass stuff that's just going to basically be brutally stupid. And Ohio proved that 3 fucking days after it. The way they are administering the law is brutally stupid and cruel.
Yeah, I heard one GOP person describe it because she was hit with this question about the 10-year-old, and eventually she answered, well, you can't justify one tragedy by allowing another. A lot of states are going to pass these same exact laws. There is no compromise with them on this. And that's all we've ever tried to do on it since Roe v. Wade is compromise. Let's determine when it becomes a human life. Let's determine when it's too late to have an elective abortion. And we compromise on that week. By the decade, it seemed that whatever week it was would just go down and down and down until like literally like one red state was like doing like 4-8 weeks, something like that. Like there's no possible way you're going to even know you're pregnant before you can't get an abortion for it. There's no compromise with them. Since Roe v. Wade, arguing with these pro-lifers, that has become abundantly apparent. And I called it this morning on my stream. I'm not going to start calling it for what it is every time I talk about it. It's radical. There is no bend. There's no compromise. And if there's no compromise, there can be no political solution outside of tyranny. And that's what we're seeing here is absolute tyranny, a very vocal minority going against what most of the country deems. Like most of the country is for legal elective abortion in some form or another. Some parts of the country are for longer. Other parts, it varies. But most of the country wants this, and yet they're dictating to us, like Jefferson said, pretty much based on their religious values.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, yes, like, obviously we are kind of covering this topic now, and it's kind of a little bit weird. Like, the last time that we personally were in, like, this type of, setup, like, with the 2 chairs, whatever, we were doing a debate on abortion, and I was talking, I have to introduce you to Keela, by the way, you two are getting along well. She had kind of said on the stream that we kind of did that, like, Knock was there for it as well. This phrase I absolutely fucking love, which is when it comes to abortion, as early as possible, but as late as necessary. And I absolutely fucking love it. I absolutely love it because, yeah, like that's the ideal version, right? That like you want to kind of get it done like as early as possible. I think that like for an awful lot of people who are, considering having an abortion, yeah, you'd kind of want to have it done as early as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, like not just for the, because depending on how they will kind of, do that abortion, like if it's kind of like early enough, like then it's kind of, it's
a difference in procedure.
It's a difference in that, yeah, but it's also kind of different in like how that pregnancy like leaves your body, shall we say, that like sometimes like it can just be like an extraordinarily like heavy period, or like sometimes like it's like a literal surgery, like and stuff like that. So like yeah, like obviously you would want to get it done as early as possible, but it's also as late as necessary. Of that, like if like something happens during the pregnancy, like if the fetus dies and you end up looking down the road of septicemia, it's like, well, yeah, like it's obviously fucking unfortunate that it has to happen 6 months into your pregnancy, but it's either like that child's not gonna live anyway, so just I don't know.
I mean, imagine the parents, right? Like I have a 12-year-old daughter. She's 12 and she's still tiny, man. Like I couldn't imagine somebody raping her and her being pregnant, and then the state telling me that I couldn't. I'm going to watch my daughter's entire life now be consumed by a forced child who, it's going to be hard enough for her just to get over that freaking memory, and now you're going to force this child on her. It is. They bring morality into this every time, and this is the most immoral shit that we could possibly do as a society.
Yeah. Yeah.
The interesting, well, you brought up something interesting, and it kind of reminded me of the idea about talking about this kind of stuff and having limitations on it. I think it's interesting that over the years that this has been going on, that this has been a political football. One of the things that's always been in check, right, is the limitations imposed on abortion. The windows. Never past this trimester. All this kind of stuff. All those limitations were there, right? To the point where then the state started putting in new things. We want you to look at a sonogram of what you're going to terminate, or what about fetal heartbeat, or all these kinds of other new restrictions, or it's got to be in a clinic or a hospital, just trying to like throw the administrative, the bureaucratic state mechanism at it, because that would slow it down, right? All these kinds of just goofy moves, right? And despite the fact that they knew every jot and tittle of how that worked. They knew the limitations and were trying to impose more. Even now, you still have activists saying that the reality of the situation is that any American woman can walk into an abortion clinic in month 9 of her pregnancy and have it taken care of. After all this time, most of the people that I've talked to, like the people that I've talked to a couple that were really heavily, intimately involved in anti-choice movement stuff. They knew those differences. They knew the difference between an embryo and a fetus and an infant. They knew the trimesters. They knew they had that figured out. Did not stop them from lying through their fucking teeth about a woman's legal ability to go with these women will just go in there and get an elective abortion. Like, you can't. They've never been able to do that. Not legally anyway. Like, whatever you're talking about, that's not the kind of stuff that you're talking about banning. That in most states already is banned. That's already illegal. Or like, they're going and getting it done on the federal dime. Like, they're not doing that either. You have to pay for that. So the lies didn't like, the more limitations they got in, the lies didn't decrease, they increased. And the exaggerations and the conflation and the hyperbole just kept rolling with it, because every time they got a little bit further ahead with one of those things, they would gin up some other controversy and then lie about it and misrepresent it. It's become a fucking nightmare, because these people, you cannot get straight answers out of these people.
Yep. And then ultimately it took them pretty much denying the Constitution, denying a sitting president his pick to the Supreme Court, denying Merrick Garland his due for his life's work. And then it took practically an insane person to put the most extreme judges there were on the Supreme Court just to get this overturned. Like, they played the long game. And as Jefferson just pointed, like, you can watch the Democratic Party and just the way that the left just kind of bent and bent and bent and bent and bent, and they just kept bending. And every time, Republicans would look at that bend and they just be like, yeah, I think we're about to break them. I think we almost got them this time. It is disgusting to look at it historically, just how we let it slip away.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're going to keep getting weirder, and the worst thing about it now is that, like, any of the goofballs that were on there that he appointed, right? They all came out of the Federalist Society. The fucked up thing to me now is that they're like, well, maybe we ought to talk about this idea of these justices going to these Senate confirmation hearings and lying, right? Like, what difference does that make now? Everybody back when he was picking people, every senator damn well knew where he was getting those choices from. He was getting them from the Federalist Society. They had their list of people that passed their litmus test. This used to be an issue when it came to the notion of a president picking a Supreme Court justice. Was like, are you picking a seasoned, experienced, level-headed jurist, or are you just picking someone who passes an ideological litmus test? Because if that's all you're trying to do, that's probably pretty fucking corrupt. Maybe don't do that. But because it's one of those norm things that we don't really have a law for or against, you ended up getting somebody like Trump. They were fucking telegraphing it. They were saying all the quiet stuff out loud. The idea that, like, well, all these people were picked by the Federalist Society, and then they get them in front of, they're like, well, what do you think about Roe v. Wade? Well, it's precedent, right? And they're like, oh, okay, so you're not going to overturn it? And then the answer was, well, it's precedent. Like, okay, that none of them ever, like, I don't know if any of them blatantly lied, but none of them really, like, manned up and said what they were, unless you went and looked at what they fucking wrote when they were in law school. and some of the stuff that they did as lawyers. And then it was pretty obvious that these people are going to legislate from the bench. Any of these Republicans that thought that that was a huge concern, that you had these liberal justices legislating from the bench and ruling by fiat, okay, that's exactly what they did. That's what they did. They put these guys on there. They've got the conservative ones in there. They pass all the ideological muster so that they can rule from the bench. That's
Yeah, it's
it was a
completely
lie.
messed up. And the liberal judges, they're usually not the extremists, like they're painted out to be. RBG was a feminist, so extremist. Oh my god, and I'm being sarcastic there. They say that about us because again, that's what they do. And it's their way to pretty much just I don't. It's like you said, they blatantly just lie and get away with it, and it's disgusting. And now I keep thinking of that 10-year-old girl. Like imagine her getting bigger. Like her body is not big enough, or it's not mature enough for that shit. They're forcing this child. I mean, I call that torture. What they're to me, and it's going to be at least 13 red states, and then who knows? Like I said, Michigan here, like Jefferson, we're more and more purple. We got more and more crazies in that legislature than ever. There's somebody running for Supreme Court right now that is absolutely insane and talks about like demon possession and shit. Like it's fucking crazy what's going on.
Well, the woman that we got, not the woman that's running for Secretary of State up here, has got a master's degree in Christian apologetics from Biola, which is a freak farm out of Southern California. She works as like a guidance and entrance, like she onboards students at one of the schools over in the Detroit area. But yeah, she's an absolute nut job. And the weird thing, the dangerous game that I think the Dems are playing now, because this popped up, I watched this when they were talking about some of the Republican primaries, is that the Democrats in some of the states have been spending money to get the radical ones in at the state, to get them winning in the primary, because a lot of the states will have open primaries. So they'll be like, hey, you're a Democrat, right? Why don't you get out and vote for the crazy one on the Republican Party ticket? Because if they win, then there's a good chance that our more, sensible sounding person will beat them, come November. And I'm like, that is a very risky proposition. Like, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm like, there's 5 people running for the Republican governor spot in this state, and I'm going to go and vote for one, but I'm voting for the one that is that believes in, he's radical, but he's not like he's not entirely crazy. He believes in exceptions in abortion for rape and incest. Also doesn't think that Biden stole the election. So it's like, okay, if I have to live and work in this state, I'm going to go for that guy. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they're goofing this stuff up. They need,
Democrats are doing absolutely nothing. Like I'm hearing of there's like this debate on whether or not they should even try to do anything on abortion in the wake of Roe v. Wade, because it's midterms and young people don't vote during the midterms. Older people do, and older people don't seem to quote unquote care about this issue. It's disgusting. I think Biden is ineffectual and almost criminal in his negligence on this. And where is he? Where's his leadership? Why did Democrats elect Joe Biden? They told us how awful Bernie Sanders was, but at least Bernie Sanders would be doing something right now.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just compare the differences between like the reactions between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden with like AOC. AOC came out and gave pragmatic, actual, like, these are things individuals can do. These are things that charities and other organizations should start doing. These are things that legislators need to start looking at doing. Laid it right out. And it's like, okay, why isn't that coming from the White House?
Yeah, I think it was just it was something that you kind of said earlier. I think that the Republicans were just kind of like running on this idea of overturning Roe v. Wade for so long that I think it just kind of became like yeah, sure, everybody knows that you're pro-life, whatever. Yeah, you'll bitch and moan about like Roe v. I don't actually think that like many people thought that it was genuinely going to get overturned. And I think that that's just because of like the extent of the long game that they were playing. You know, like they kept mentioning it so much and then was doing absolutely nothing about it. And so people just kind of, I don't know, like I did myself
I
anyway,
agree.
definitely, you know, and I know that I'm not the only one who did, who was,
I
it was
did.
just kind of like,
I
yeah,
grew
they'll keep
complacent.
bitching. Yeah.
I never thought they would be able to overturn it. Like I thought it was an impossibility. You know, it just even when they elected Trump's judges, I was like, they won't do it. I mean, there'll be riots in the streets, and I'm surprised that there hasn't been. Honestly, I'm just surprised there hasn't been.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of like turnout and stuff, because a couple things happened after that decision went through, and a few others. You started seeing in some races that might have been kind of close between a Democrat and a Republican. They widened, usually in Raphael Warnock is running in Georgia against Herschel Walker, and he's now got a 10-point lead. And I don't know if that has anything to do with just sort of the crazy or rightward turn of the Supreme Court, or the fact that more and more people are like, Herschel Walker seems like a bag of dicks.
You know, we could if we could just get fucking Manchin and Sinema, whip them into shape. I mean, if we had a president that had that in them to do that, we could overturn the Hyde Amendment right now. We could easily expand the Supreme Court right now and put in judges before Republicans took power.
Actually, I have a solution for that.
They'll
I
do
think
nothing. They'll do nothing.
No, and the weird thing is they won't violate a norm even after the Republicans have, which is what I think they ought to do. Because Obama had the ability to do this back when they wouldn't have hearings for Merrick Garland. He should have called their bluff, because you don't have to have. It doesn't say anywhere it says in the Constitution that the president shall appoint Supreme Court justice. It doesn't say anything about them having to have any kind of hearing. The Senate doesn't get a say in that. The president does, right? It's just been the norm that you pick the nominees and then they go before the Senate and get interviewed, right? But you don't have to do that. That was Obama's last term. He should have put him in. That was his goof up. I would have been like, nope, okay. Like, look, he started to signal that that's what he was going to do. Like, the Constitution says that this is my job. I'm going to do it. You need to do yours. And I'm like, that's a mistake, because they don't care. They don't care about this. And now, with the way things are going, if the Democratic Party wanted to run as effectively as the Republican Party, then they would be playing the whole game and not acting like little weird individuals. Obama should appoint. He should expand the court, and he should just put them on. And then when the news cycle hits and it's like, well, he's going to lose his presidency. He's a one-termer for sure now. Look at this tyrannical overreach, yank, 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 blah, 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 whatever. They don't care about that, because if a conservative gets in and they expand the court, they'll expand the court and they'll fill it with more ideologues. They'll do that. So he should fill it. He should go out there and find 4 progressive justices, put them on there, basically tell the Republicans to pound sand, because there's not going to be anything for them to do. They'll be like, well, we didn't have confirmation hearings. Don't need them. If you want to have them, you can have them. But I'm putting them on there. Expand the court to 13. Put them on there. When they freak out about him being an imperial president and all this overreach, he and Kamala Harris step down. They announced that they're not running for 2024, and then they open up the Democratic primary field, which sucks the wind out of the Republican primary field, which all of the media is going to be talking about. Everybody's going to be focused on who the Republicans are, who's going to be running against Biden and Harris, who are looking weak now, will probably be looking weak in 2 years. If they do that,
if Biden and Harris run, they're going to get obliterated. It's going to be Trump or DeSantis, and one of those two are going to obliterate him.
Yeah. The best thing that he could do would be to pull that trick, step down, and it's his job. If he wants to expand it, he can. He can do that as the president. He steps down, he expands the court, announces that he's not going to run, opens up the primary ticket side, and then people start jockeying for position in the Democratic primary. That gets some excitement moving.
I agree.
On both sides of things, and gets things moving.
Nothing unconstitutional about any of it.
Nope. And if he and Harris think, especially Harris, if they think that any of their reaction to any of this kind of stuff is going to win them any support, they're old school enough that they're going to rely on this whole thing. You have to vote for us because the alternative is insanity. Like, that's not working anymore because Americans have demonstrated that they will choose insanity if they think it's going to get them what they want. They already did that with Trump. They did it twice. We could have had him a second time. He had the most votes of any presidential candidate, except that Joe Biden broke the record too and happened to win. So that party has lost its fucking mind too. I blame the defense or something.
Yeah. I mean, fascism is sweeping through it, and you're right. Like, so if
sorry to bore you, Stephen, with American politics.
No, not at all.
On your stream from Ireland, but I mean this shit. I feel like we watched Ireland, go through this shit for forever, and then get the right to abortion, finally recognized in your country, and then America, for whatever reason, just decides to semi-collectively lose its mind.
Yeah,
it's fucked up.
I know. Democrats sitting around doing nothing is already starting to backfire against them. Like, I'm a part of a lot of lefty circles here. I've been a part of the Democratic Party here. I'm no longer a part of the Democratic Party here. But I'm already hearing, like, people are talking midterms go straight red nationally, and then locally go progressive. But they want to send a message to the Democratic Party that this is unacceptable, and they're figuring that if they do it in the midterms, then maybe the Democratic Party will get the message, and then they'll have Biden as that bumper in the White House. So I'm like, I really think the Democrats are messing with fire by having this debate on whether or not they're going to combat this issue of abortion right now, and if they don't, I think they can damage themselves forever. No, if you're going to be ineffectual, then they might as well just vote for the Republicans. I mean, if you're not going to fight against them, then why wouldn't they just vote for the fucking Republicans? It's really, really dangerous. And I already think it's going to take, what, 20 years for us to fix this. It's not going to be some easy fix unless we overwhelmingly put in a supermajority to where we can actually codify Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, and then you have to worry about the judicial review on that with this particular, with the 6-3, that you've got, because that's what the Republicans are hoping for. They're like, yeah, try it. You guys get those majorities, but you still got to get through our Supreme Court. Our Supreme Court's going to shut that shit down. So the Democrats need to play to win. They need to stop this technique of, all we need to do is make sure that our people go up against the looniest of the lunatics that the Republican Party can offer. And it's like, you can't afford to do that when so many of the districts are fucking gerrymandered. 538 did a whole thing on this, and Republicans actually netted stuff, even though the Democrats have control after, have majorities and should have been able to rewrite most of these districts to give them an advantage. The Republicans still have an advantage in those districts for the next 10 fucking years, because this country is just foundationally made out of, is just a shit sandwich for some strange reason. Like, why parties are allowed to choose the districts is just, a great example of a moral hazard. For whatever reason, we still do that.
Yeah. And Democrats
so
got caught up here in Michigan.
Yeah. I think it's finally even now. Instead of being tilted red, we're at a good even though we lost a congressional district because of population. But but there's enough states out there that are leaning, like Wisconsin right now, heavily gerrymandered for Republicans. And
so is North Carolina and Texas. Like, Texas is actually a blue state. They're just gerrymandered to fuck.
Yeah. It's something like, and Louisiana is probably going to be gerrymandered too, because the Supreme Court decided that racist gerrymandered map that Louisiana, the Republicans of Louisiana picked, it can stand. They kicked it back to the state. So, as long as the Supreme Court's filled with those assholes, no, they've got to blunt that. The fucked up thing, though, is I actually do think this is weird, right? So some of the shit that they're making, these decisions, it will be an example of Republicans being the dog that caught the car. This stuff is going to bite them on the ass, right? It's going to start showing up in 10 years when they've got more poor people have, more unintentional pregnancies. They've got higher demands in education, higher demands for social welfare, things that Republicans do not like to provide. And the states that are going to be red and they're going to have lower mobility, people that have more kids are going to need those resources in those red states. And those red states, usually they have a reputation for not being well run. So that's going to catch up with them. There's this dangerous idea, I think, that the Democrats are doing, where it's like, well, look, let the inmates take over the asylum for a little while. And then when people realize how bad it gets, they'll realize we're the only alternative and come to us. It's like, yeah, you don't want to do that. Right? Like that's not a sound strategy, because more and more of this rhetoric has been like, consider what's happened culturally. Like you guys, Stephen, you guys wouldn't feel it because you're not here, but Naka maybe back me up on this, but it feels more like with more of these like conservative decisions happening, it actually feels like these people are even more obsessed, more anxious to get even more crazy stuff done faster.
Yeah.
Like they're not doing this thing where like, oh, Roe v. Wade got overturned, the war is won. That was just a pivotal battle they needed done.
Just to start.
It really feels like they're like, okay, now they're going to ramp it up. And you can see it on social media. You can see it in the comments. You can just the tone shift has gotten worse. Like they're getting worse. They're winning more little battles and they're actively getting more and more obnoxious about it. It's like a lot of this stuff is going to have to change. And most of the stuff is happening in a vacuum because the Democrats are not they're not coordinating in a way that really provides an alternative leadership structure.
I can't remember the case name, but I'm fairly certain gay marriage is going to come up next session.
Yeah.
And I was going to cover this clip earlier today that of this pro-life activist talking about how this is just the beginning. They are screaming for a national ban now. They know they've got the upper hand now, and the court just set precedent. Right wingers are trying to deny. It's weird because it's like they accept that it happened while trying to say that the Supreme Court isn't striking down state law, but they literally just struck down New York's concealed carry law. They're going to go after guns. Any state that's trying to protect its citizenry, they're going to go after them, and they're going to go after people like that 10-year-old that drove to Indiana to get that abortion. They're going to make laws against that, and they're going to start branding that 10-year-old, if she were to do what she did, either a murderer or they're going to accuse her of manslaughter. It's going to get really fucked up in this country because they have the upper hand right now, and it's not like we won the war. We just won the first battle of the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, yeah, genuinely, I could talk about this, and I know that you could as well, for hours, but yeah, it's getting super kind of fucking late here, and I'm starting to get tired, so yeah, we'll wrap up. Jordan Peterson is just as fucking insane as I kind of thought that he was, and the fact that a 10-year-old had to drive out of state to have an abortion because her own state rejected it is lunacy of the highest fucking order. Yeah, shit's fucked up, and I know that it's only going to get worse, and that's the scariest thing. But yeah, I want to thank everybody who came along. Everybody who's on screen right now, everybody in the chat, yeah, like, subscribe, do all that YouTuber box, and we'll talk to you in the next one.
See you both later.